Today we're going to be talking about the Ensley Cosmetics Lands of Enchantment collection. So I'm a little bit late in getting this video up. I was out of town visiting family for Thanksgiving, but a bunch of you on Instagram said you were still interested in seeing this. So hopefully this video can be helpful. Maybe if you're trying to see if this is something you would want to invest in, or if you just want to see some pretty swatches and comparisons, I hope this video can be a good resource. I do want to preface by saying that all of this was sent to me in PR from Ensley Cosmetics, and I am an affiliate with the brand. If you use my affiliate code SEEKINGSHIFTS, you will save 10% on your purchase. So because of that, I obviously have some inherent bias towards the brand, but as always, I'm going to try to remain as fair and objective as possible. Just want to disclose that right at the top, but let's go ahead and get into this. Let's start with the palette. I'm editing this and I realized I should probably give a heads up of two things. One, I just changed my lighting setup. So this is my first video with my new studio light. Second thing is I have a pretty big scratch on my arm. I don't know where it came from. I just woke up with it and I realized it can be pretty jarring. So I just wanted to let you know, like, it's just a mystery scratch. If that is disturbing to look at, I'll see you in the next video. So this palette retails for $88.88 USD. If you use an affiliate code, that would take off 10%, so it'd be right about at $80. This is an expensive palette, so what exactly do you get in here? You get 13 matte eyeshadows, 4 multi-chromes, 4 holochromes, and 4 duochromes. Also, I do want to point out that the pans are magnetic and removable, which to me adds a ton of value because I'm forever taking shades out of eyeshadow palettes and using them to create my own color stories, but that does contribute to the increased cost of the palette. I think this is objectively beautiful. It's this like ethereal, cool tone, pastel, but muted, and it actually has a pretty good range from light to dark, but I will say I feel like it could have been edited down just a little bit. Like, I don't think we needed both of these like super pale pinks or both of these really pale mints, but otherwise no complaints. I think it's absolutely stunning, and I love that we have a bunch of iridescents, different textures in the shimmers, and some holographic multi-chromes. I think it's just overall a very beautiful color story. So in terms of the shimmers, let's start with the 3 iridescent shades. These are all pretty much the same texture. Very smooth, reflective, and silky. First we have Faye, which is a hot pink to orange to gold. Then we have Light Language, which is this like a blue indigo peach shifting shade. This is kind of similar to those shades like UV from Clionadh, Zero Gravity from Terra, but it's a lot more vibrant. We saw something similar in one of the recent BellaBeauteBar palettes, which I'll compare later on in this video. Then we have Divine Light, which is like a teal, blue, purple, pink. Next group of shimmers, first we have Earth Light, which is a holochrome, and it's like a pink from Straight On. And then I see shifts to orange and pale gold. And then of course you have those hollow flecks throughout it. Then we have Moonrise, which appears as almost a taupe in the pan, but I see shifts from a pale, muted pink to this like taupe to gold. Really unique shade. Then we have Shattered Stars, which is absolutely stunning. This is like a taupe base and it has a blue to indigo to purple shift. Very like wet looking type of eyeshadow. I will say this one feels really emollient. I feel like maybe if you're prone to creasing, it may crease on you. I can't really speak from experience. I have worn this on my eyes and it personally did not crease on me, but I always say like don't use me as a reference for creasing because for whatever reason I have unproblematic eyelids. Then we have True Essence, a sky blue, holochrome, and I see shifts to like pink and gold maybe. Then we have Lunar Light, which is one of my absolute favorites in this palette. It is so beautiful. It's like almost translucent looking in the pan, and from Straight On it's this pale gold, and I see shifts to green, blue, purple. So beautiful. Then Cosmic Flow, which is a magenta, and it shifts to orange and gold. Next group of shimmers we have Lemuria, which I believe is a holochrome, and it's like a periwinkle from Straight On, and it shifts to purple, gold, green, and I do see a bunch of holoflecks, but they're more finely milled in this one. Starseed, which feels a little bit on the chunkier side. Really reflective teal to blue indigo shifting shade. Then finally we have Moon Magic, which is another holochrome, and it's a teal from Straight On. This one shifts to like purple and magenta. I feel like this is pretty similar to like the more common types of teal, blue, purple shifting multi-chromes that we've seen. So those are all the shimmers. Now let's talk about the single shadows. So first we have Crystal City, which is a multi-chrome, and all of these look like holochromes to me, but I think it's just because they have so many different like colors and sizes of sparkle particles in them, which if you watch my videos you know I love that. I live for it. It's a pale dusty sky blue, pink sparkles, and then like larger particle size sparkles that are almost colorless. Actual multi-chrome shifts from like that pale sky blue to pink, and then I see like gold and green from a really harsh angle. Next we have Opaline Fairy. This one I think is my favorite. So this is is also a muted blue base, but it's more of a sheer blue base and it's a little bit grungier. Shifts from a spicy pink to gold to green. I feel like then it goes back into that blue. Again, we have a bunch of different like confetti sparkles in here. I see green, gold, and blue sparkles in here. It's a smaller, more refined particle size, very smooth feeling, almost silky, and then it has a super reflective high shine finish. But you also have those sparkles in there from all the different colors of sparkle particles. Next we have Celestial Fairy, which is a muted lilac. And I see sparkle particles that are green and hot pink. And then it looks like it shifts to gold and green. This one I feel like is pretty unique. I haven't really seen too many multichromes like this. Again, very like quote unquote wearable muted type of multichrome. Love this. And then the last one we have here is called Paradise, and this one's like a mauve. This one's definitely in spicy neutral territories. We see this muted mauve from straight on, and I see like hot pink, gold, and green sparkle particles in here, and then it shifts to like a beige almost, and then a gold. Really beautiful. I love how it definitely has like these prominent shifts, but they're all kind of muted colors, so it just makes it so quote unquote wearable, approachable, whatever you want to call it. So those are the 4 singles, and then the last thing in this collection is this highlighter. It's called Rainbow Starseed, and this is one of those highlighters that has like stripes of different color iridescent multichromes, indigo, purple, pink, and then I see like an orange, gold, green, and then the next row is like a pink, orange, gold, and then I see a teal, blue, purple, and then I see a blue, indigo, purple shifting multichrome. So these are like pretty standard iridescents. If you have a lot of iridescent multichromes in your collection, you definitely have dupes to at least one of these. But if you don't have any iridescents, maybe this is something you might be interested in because it allows you to try quite a few different ones. I mean, you would need a really small brush to get into each individual one. If you follow BellaBeauteBar on Instagram, she does a lot of the like rainbow swipe reels. They're really aesthetically pleasing to look at. I did recreate one of those on my own Instagram with this, and I also am showing you what they look like all mixed together. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the 2 looks I did with the Lands of Enchantment palette. For the first look, I'm starting with the shade Nodal Shift with a tapered blending brush. This is one of the brushes that What's Up Beauty sent me that I'm testing out. And I'm basically just applying it all over my crease, all the way to the outer corner and below my lash line as well. Then with the same brush, I just wiped it off and I went into the shade Utopia, and I started off with a very sheer layer on my outer corner to create more of a gradient. So I blended that into the first shade I laid down, and then I went in with a second layer to add some depth and concentrated that more on the outermost corner and on my outer corner, my lower lash line. Then with my finger, I went into the shade Starseed. This is, like I mentioned, one of the chunkier shades, but it also feels a bit creamy, so I didn't feel like I needed a tacky base to get this to adhere nicely over the mattes. So I'm just tapping that on my eyelid. Then I went in with a brush and kind of just like diffused it / blended it more into those mattes. Then with a small blending brush, I went into Shattered Stars, and then I applied that on the inner third of my lid and kind of brought it up into the swoop of my crease. I felt like it kind of paired well with that other teal shade because it has those teal, blue, purple sparkles. Then on my lower lash line, I applied the shade Cosmic Flow with a flat blending brush, and then as a last minute thing, I went into Light Language with a large pencil brush and applied that into my inner corner, and then I brought it up onto my brow bone too. I always forget to apply stuff to my brow bone, even though I like the way it looks. I just for some reason never think to do it. But here's the final look. I really like how it came out. I'm still adjusting to my new lighting setup, but I feel like it shows sparkles a lot better than the setup I had before. For the second look, I started with the lighter mint shade Paradise with the same tapered blending brush from What's Up Beauty, and I applied that all over the inner half of my crease and kind of just diffuse it along the edges. Then I went into the shade Majestic and applied that all over the outer half of my crease, brought it all the way down toward my lid area and underneath my lash line. Then with a smaller blending brush, I went into Great Crystal and concentrated that on the lower part of my outer corner just to add some depth. And then I just buffed along the edges to blend it into that lighter purple shade and create more of a gradient. Then with my finger, I went into the shade Earthlight. Didn't use any tacky base here, just wanted to see how it applied on its own. And I applied that all over the center of the lid to kind of like marry those two matte tones. Then I brought it underneath my lower lash line. If you do this, you do your base last because I did get some fallout from putting it underneath my lash line. Then with a pencil brush, I went into Divine Light and just packed that on to my inner corner. And that's pretty much the whole look. Really simple. I really love how this one came out. I think this is my favorite / one of my favorite looks I've done recently. Let me know which look you like best out of the two. So I think the palette that has the most obvious similarities is Crystal Skies palette in collaboration with Katie, aka Shifty Shadow on Instagram. This one was also sent to me in PR. Anything that was sent to me in PR for this comparisons portions or the singles comparisons portions, I will indicate with an asterisk as always. So here they are side by side. Now I also have swatches up of the matte side by side because I simply could not fit the whole palette of Lands of Enchantment on one arm. And I don't think there's too much similarity in the shimmers. I think it's really the mattes we're looking at in terms of comparisons. I would say in terms of overall vibes, the Crystal Skies palette is a lot punchier. It's a lot more vibrant. They're both pastel color stories. They both have primarily cool tones with some pink. We see purples, we see blues, we see teals, we see pink in both palettes, but I would say the overall tones of the Lands of Enchantment palette are more muted, and I also do think there's a little bit more of a range of light to dark in the Lands of Enchantment palette. So it really depends what I don't even know if this palette is still available, but if you were like trying to make a decision, I think they're both beautiful pastel palettes. Okay, so let's take a closer look. I did already show you the side-by-side swatches of all the mattes, but let's take a look some specific shades to see if there's any actual overlap. So in terms of the pinks, let's do on one side of my arm, Nodal Shift from Lands of Enchantment. We can do Portal 2. And then we can do, we'll do the top two pinks in the Crystal Skies palette. So hold on, let me turn my light down a little. Okay, hopefully you can see here. This kind of illustrates what I'm talking about. These are a lot more desaturated compared to these. Let's also take a look at some purples. So let's do actually all three purples compared to the three purples in the Crystal Skies palette. So Enlightened, Majestic, let me do another swipe of that. Majestic and Utopia compared to these three: Irisation, Amethyst, and Muse. So you can definitely see here these are a lot more saturated and vibrant compared to these. These are a bit more pale, although I will say these are pretty similar. I don't know how different they would look on the eyes. I guess it would depend on your skin tone. Okay, let's do some of these like mint shades too. So Paradise, Awakening, and then we can compare these two to Arcana and Mist in the Crystal Skies palette. So there's definitely more variation in tone between these two shades. These two, like I mentioned before, I think they're a little bit redundant in this palette. And then we can also do these two blues. So this is Lost World and Transcend. And let's do Tourmaline, Crustalos, and Celium from this palette. Tourmaline, Crustalos, Celium. So these two look really, really similar. These might be like actually spot on in terms of color. Actually, this is a little bit warmer. I don't know that there's really anything in this bottom row. So here's all the mattes we're taking a closer look at. This is pretty much what I already showed you, but here you go. Let's do some shimmers too. As far as the shimmers, I don't know that there's too much. We can do True Essence and Lemuria on one side. And then we can do Oracle and Crystal Rain on the other side. These two are pretty similar. I do think Crystal Rain has a more sparkly finish, and this one's a little bit shiftier. I guess we can also compare Earthlight to Morganite. That's pretty much it, I feel like, in terms of comparisons of individual shades. So hopefully this can be helpful if you already have the Crystal Skies palette, or maybe, I don't know if it's still available, like I said, but maybe if you were trying to decide between them. And then I have one other palette. This is my only other, specifically pastel palette. This is the Natasha Denona pastel palette, which is discontinued, but if you already have this, maybe you're curious how some shades compare. So let's just take a look. I mean, there's not too much. We can do, oh my god, there's so many sparkles. Hold on. Let's do like the pastel pinks and purples compared to the pinks and purples in the pastel palette. So let's just do tulle, feather, Bora. I mean, I don't know. And then I guess what we can do is compare the like minty, the mints and blues to like the mints and blues in here. So we can do Paradise, Awakening, Lost World, Transcend, and Atlantis, and compare them to Brisk. Let's just swatch Adriatic too, because I pretty much use this as a matte. Airy, and Bubble. So there you go. I don't know. There's like some similarities, but just in case anyone was curious, those are how these two compare. But okay, now let's go ahead and get into the shade by shade comparisons with singles. Okay, so let me know what you think about this palette. Is it going on your wish list? Are you planning to pick it up? Let me know your thoughts. Let's chat about it in the comments. But that's going to be it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And other than that, I will see you in the next one. Bye.